Hey guys, so today, as you can see, I am currently visiting GameFAQs.com, and GameFAQs.com, if you don't know, is a website which gives you walkthroughs and cheats and even a little bit of gaming news. Basically, it's the go-to place if you ever get stuck on a computer game, and as you can see from the front page, they run a poll of the day. It changes every single day, and it usually asks questions in regards to computer games and the like. And today I want to go through a few of the polls, as the results, they're kind of interesting, I guess. So anyway, today the first poll that I want to look at is poll of the day. With the launch less than 2 weeks away, do you plan to buy an Xbox One? And as you can see, there is an overwhelming majority of people saying no, I don't have any plans to get one yet. And I think this pretty much speaks for itself, and I also think this pretty much speaks for the pretty terrible PR campaign that Xbox and Microsoft have been running up until this launch, with so few people. 12,000 people saying no, 616 people saying not at launch, but I expect to have one at the end of the year, and then everyone else saying yes. Which is, what's that? That's about 700 people tops, right? That's not a particularly good sample. That's not a particularly good result, because the sample it's not particularly massive with 13,285, but it certainly does, in my opinion, paint a lot of the sort of distaste that people are having towards Microsoft and Xbox One at the moment. And a lot of that might be down to the fact that I still believe you have to get the online patch before you can even play games offline like a regular console, and that's obviously going to be something that's going to hold it back, and that may be where a lot of the no's come from, because it might be the next set of releases of the Xbox One console that people are waiting for, which you could presumably play offline as the second you take it out of the box. But let's see if PlayStation 4 are actually doing any better. So, with the launch just a week away, do you plan on buying a PlayStation 4? And as you can see, the vote is somewhat a little bit more split, but again, the overwhelming result with about 20,000 people is no, I don't have any plans to get one yet either. 61.42 of the vote. Now, again, people don't seem to be particularly enthusiastic about the PlayStation 4. Now, obviously the PlayStation 4 is doing a little bit better in terms of the yeses. There are thousands of people rather than hundreds who are saying that they're going to get it, but it's still not in the tens of thousands of people out of this particular sample of 32,243. Now that might be because people, a console of any type, particularly this generation, which appear to be very expensive, they want to see whether or not people are actually going to enjoy it. They want to wait for other people to buy it, test it out, try it out, and then, read the reviews to see if it's actually worth getting. And I think that's probably a smart way, and that's how I'd buy any console. I'd never pre-order a console. It's just too much money and too much of a gamble, really. Especially when PlayStation 4, which, even though it's been massively superior to Microsoft and Xbox in terms of the PR it's been getting, it's still got some of its failings. So, it's not perfect. It's just the better out of the two by quite a long margin. But here is the third poll which I want to talk to you about. Are you interested in buying a Steam machine to play games from Steam on your TV? Now again, the people who say absolutely and yes, it would be a great addition to my home are still less than 2,000 cumulatively. But the maybes, 10,394. That's a lot. But again, you're going to need more information. I mean, the Steam box it's a type of console we have never seen before. It is probably not going to appeal to the very old school gamers who like to have their games on a disc. Steam OS is very much a new and a different kind of way of managing your games. And again, you can see the probably nots and the no's. In fact, the no's, I don't have any interest in it, and I'm surprised that others do. That is actually quite high, 28%, 28.43%. So it's certainly a much more divided poll. To be honest, you probably won't get yes on many of the people who say they're going to pre-order it, simply because, again, pre-ordering a console is just not a wise thing to do. And especially considering that, as far as I'm aware, we don't know what the price of the Steam box are. I mean, we know that there are going to be variations in models. We know there are going to be lots of different models. And we also know that we don't know how much these models are going to cost. We don't know what the specs are going to be. I would possibly imagine that the high-end ones would probably outstrip a console in terms of performance, but they'll be playing PC games, or they'll be playing Steam games, and presumably, well, no, not presumably, we know that Steam developers, developers for games that run on Steam, many AAA titles have already pledged that they're going to make it compatible with SteamOS. So we don't know whether or not those different portings are going to how they're going to play out, because presumably people or games developers who are going to port a game to SteamOS have to be aware that they could either be porting it to a Steambox or they could be porting it to a PC that's running SteamOS, and therefore have to be extra versatile in terms of what they can actually, how they're actually going to port the game. So anyway, Steam definitely seems to come out the best out of all of this, out of the 3 consoles that I've looked at today. That being said, though, none of these initial 3 polls actually show much enthusiasm for pre-order, because, like I said, pre-ordering, not that great. Okay, so the next poll. Do you think the downloaded game should be priced lower in the same game than in a retail box? And basically a lot of people saying absolutely, if I can't trade it or sell it, it should cost much less. And yes, it should be a little cheaper since there's no disc or case. And then pretty much everyone else with just a couple of thousand a piece, except the bottom, are just saying no, it's the same. And I've got to admit, actually, I would actually peg myself on not well, the bottom one. Not at all. Download should be more, well, maybe not the bottom one, but it is the game you're paying for. Well, if you look at what you are paying for on Steam and what you are paying for when you buy a disc, when you buy a disc, you are paying for a disc with the game on it, with the means to play the game. With Steam, you're buying the rights to a game that you can download, and that is a guarantee that you will own that game via the Steam servers as long as the company Steam and Valve are in business, which is more than likely going to outlast the physical copy of a game. Or at least it's a gamble, but it's a gamble that I would personally peg on rather have Steam. I would rather have Steam looking after the essential physical copy of my game rather than myself. People move, people lose discs, discs get broken. With Steam, you have a guaranteed right to that game as long as that company is in business. They are effectively, the way I see it, is that Steam and Valve, they're looking after your game discs for you. And if you look at it like that, you look at, you are paying someone to look after your physical game library, then there isn't any reason why you shouldn't actually have to pay more for that, because your game is safer with Steam than it is with yourself, presumably, unless of course you're extra vigilant looking after the discs. And even then, there's no guarantee that should someone sit on them, or should your console wreck them, which has happened before with the original Xbox and the Xbox 360 actually, then so I don't have a problem with paying the same amount. I know that effectively they aren't looking after an actual physical library of my games. They're merely looking after their own servers, which I'm paying for the right to download that game off their servers. But that right is, to me, more valuable than a disc, because it puts more responsibility. I'm paying for them to take responsibility for my physical game. That's the way I look at it. If they do want to charge less for it, which they often do in the Steam sales and so forth, I'm certainly not complaining. All right, but in terms of the actual value, even though it costs less for them to have Steam, presumably. I mean, I don't know what the bandwidth is going to be like for them. The bandwidth might end up costing more than printing physical discs. I don't know, especially on economics that big. But in terms of the value, I say that you get an increased value out of Steam games and games through Steam rather than games out of a physical box. And there's also other things as well. They've got better multiplayer through Steam, and they've got better support through Steam. So all in all, I don't see that as being worth any less than a physical game, and even at times more. So anyway, that's just my opinion, but a lot of people, tens of thousands of people, over 30,000 people disagree with me on that one. So anyway guys, let me know what you think about that one down in the comment section below, because that'd be quite interesting. Next poll. At the end of 2023, which company do you think will have the dominant gaming platform? They've got all the major ones listed here, and at the bottom, nobody. Video games as we know it will be history in 10 years. Now, obviously the bottom one, there's going to be a certain section of people, well, 14% of people that say that the landscape is going to be just so different, and it kind of is. If you look at 10 years ago, the big companies, 10 years ago, 2003, the big companies, well, Valve, that was around the time Half-Life came out, and that really put Valve front and center in the games world. This was after, well, like Nintendo, they were still pretty big, they were still kicking around. I think Sega was possibly dying out around this time. What's interesting is Google's up there as a gaming platform. Do you reckon Google could actually bring out a games console? To be honest, I think they might. I think there's actually a good possibility. Haven't thought about that. And again, Apple, I wouldn't be surprised if Apple tried to bring out a console within in the next 10 years, but and I don't even know how well it'd do. I don't know. I would actually vote Valve. I think Valve have an obligation to stay afloat because of how Steam works, and I think that's going to make them make smart decisions because there's more vested in it. Sony, again, they're a much bigger company than just games, so they're likely to be around in 10 years, and I would say that they're likely to have a console in 10 years. I reckon there will, and I reckon there'll be a PlayStation 5. Same deal with Nintendo, they'll still be around. The dominant gaming platform, well, I think it'll be split. I think there'll be Valve, I think there'll be Sony. I suspect Microsoft will hang in there, and Nintendo. I'd say Valve, Sony, and Nintendo are going to be the three big ones in 10 years' time. Likely to be wrong on one or two of those accounts, but I think considering that there's no dominant gaming platform now, I don't think that there will be in 10 years' time. Okay, so the next one is has a bad ending ever ruined an otherwise great game for you? Very, very split on this one, but yes, a badly written ending has changed my opinion of a game. I would actually peg myself either in this one here. Yes, a badly written ending has changed my opinion of a game, or somewhat. It's certainly stopped me playing a game more than once, because I played Mass Effect 3. I've only played that through the one time as far as I can remember, and that was almost certainly down to the ending, almost certainly. So and it's the only game that's done that. Oh, I won't lie, it's the only game. It's a massive exception to the rule. Most games, to be honest, if I've gotten to the ending of a game, the chances are the writing isn't going to change completely off kilter in the same way that Mass Effect 3 did. And I know a lot of people who were actually quite happy with the Mass Effect 3 ending, but it just completely wrecked the game for me. And it didn't really tie up any loose ends. And even though I really disliked that, there did seem to be that kind of element there. That the fact of the matter is, well, but when a hero or main character dies, there are going to be, when anyone dies, there are going to be loose ends that don't get tied up. And of course, with the Citadel DLC for Mass Effect 3, that kind of makes an attempt to tie up loose ends before the final mission. But it doesn't. To me, it's a comedy add-on, which is good, and I really enjoyed it. But it's not proper. It's not. It doesn't change anything. It just adds DLC that I like. The only thing that would change would be if they change the ending of the game. And there are many, many, many conspiracy theories to say they might do that, but I don't know. I hope they do. I hope they do actually find it in themselves to change the game, but I don't know. And the final poll: would you ever choose to display your real name on your online gaming profile, like Steam, PSN, or Xbox Live? Because I was quite surprised. No, I'd prefer to remain anonymous while playing games, and I'm kind of quite surprised at that, really, because of course I've always used my real name. I've never been one for anonymity or anything like that. So, I just thought that would be quite interesting, because that's, again, this is a poll with 34,255 people. 16,675 people said no, I'd prefer to remain anonymous while playing games. That's a lot. And even 23.16% of people said never. I wouldn't use any service that required it. That's 7,934 people. So a lot of people that want to remain anonymous online. I don't know why that is. Obviously, as you guys know, my Steam name is Christopher Ware, and as you can see, I would obviously fall into the top option there. Sure, I'd already used my real name. I'm not ashamed of it. So anyway, guys, that's just a few polls I thought, that I found particularly interesting. I thought I'd like to share with you. Feel free to discuss any of these polls down in the comment section below. I will certainly be in there joining you. The one that I particularly would be interested to hear your opinion on is at the end of 2013, which company do you think will have the dominant gaming platform? So anyway, guys, that's about it from me today. Thank you very, very much for watching, and until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Take care now.